Welcome, Facebook family. We are very happy to have you here today. As you know, our wonderful Reverends, Rev G and Rev Ed, are away, and I am filling in as their speaker for today. And spirituality in action is the overview of the whole year. And this particular year is about compassion, or this monthly prayer talk is about compassion and care, being in care of the poor. And poor isn't necessarily poor in financial abundance. It can very well be poor in mind, in spirit, the way you think. And I can think of many people who are very abundant in financial ability, but if you think of some of the people, even in our government, who are multimillionaires, who are very willing to deprive people of financial abundance because they seem to have this greedy need to make more money, that doesn't say they are people that are grounded in any kind of abundant philosophy, which is very much what this philosophy is. So if I could have the next. So cause and effect is the second principle. Once we understand our oneness with a power that is greater than we are, that we can all use. Think about those words. When I read Louise Hay and found out that knowing that God or the force or higher power, whatever you want to call it, because we really don't have an exact dogma, we all have our ability to think the way we choose. When I first came into the philosophy, the word God was not something I ever wanted to say, but I could accept, and what I still think if I'm talking to people, is that we have a vibrational energy that began this universe, and that vibrational energy is everywhere present. It is right here in this very room. But not only is it in this very room, it is everywhere in the universe. From this spot that we are standing to the ends of the universe, and the ever-expanding universe, because the universe is expanding all the time. And as I am speaking right here, my son, who maybe doesn't hear me in New Zealand, is still experiencing that vibrational energy, whether he knows it or not. A lot of us don't even realize that we are connected to this vibrational energy, because the truth, according to our beliefs, and what I have come to feel is so very true, because the more ingrained and the deeper I go, and the more my inward journey takes me, the more I know that there is a power greater than I am that I can use, and that power is willing to give me that which I desire. And I've had many miracles. Any minor miracles that you've had out there? I think so. So anyway, I just like to say that this presence is omniscient, all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful, and omnipresent everywhere. So we just in this room, and within each one of us, it is out there in the ethers. And what you choose to believe is what you get back in life. So our second principle in Science of Mind, which is the Centers for Spiritual Living's philosophy, is the law of cause and effect. And you can wait for 1 quick second. It's okay. I'll tell you when to move it, okay? So cause and effect is how we use our thinking. What we put out to the universe is what we really get back. If you think life is difficult, if you think people are hard to get along with, if you think that the things that you come in contact with are not making your life worthwhile, then you will probably draw those kind of energies and people to yourself. If, on the other hand, you believe that life is fairly easy, that you have wonderful friends, that life is prosperous and abundant, and abundance is not about money. Abundance is that feeling that you have enough of anything that you choose in your life, and it's not how much money you have. And now you can change to the next slide. And this next slide is a very well-known slide. Because we have beliefs from all philosophies, I'm just doing a couple. Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe." I'm sure that everybody has heard that. What you believe is what you get in your experience. And this next one is Buddha. Buddha is an Eastern philosophy, and in fact, they have a belief in higher consciousness and not necessarily a belief in that outer power. But they still say, Our life is shaped by our mind. We become what we believe. And my guru, Louise Hay, who I have spoken to at many times, she says, every thought you are thinking is creating your future. 100% of your thoughts are making your next moment what is happening in your life. So that if we don't learn or choose to change our thinking, we will always be caught up in whatever our pattern is in life. I read Louise Hay, as you all know, because I've said it before, and that changed my thinking and changed my life, and was so powerful in the changes that began to take incrementally after a short period of time. I sought out the philosophy because she is somebody who was in this philosophy. She is deceased. I found this philosophy in the early 80s, or I'd say the mid-80s. And I became involved with the Science of Mind Center that was here with John Gould. And it was wonderful until 1997 when he retired. Then didn't do anything until I came back into it when Rev Ed and Rev G started again. And it's filled me. It's a continuous ongoing sense of growing and becoming more aware and being able to move into my inward journey and peel away layers that have made me think in negative ways in any form. Next. So this part of the talk is really part of what you were talking about. We sometimes have, Nan said in her reading, we have things that come up in life. It's not all perfect in terms of what we experience in life, but how we view things in our life that ends up being whether we have great difficulty or whether we go through some of these conflicts that we may have with ease and effortlessness. So just to say, the eye of the storm, that's my life, your life, of the storm, is about conflicts and the journey that we face in life. And if you could put up. So I'm going to read this. Wherever you are, there is change, movement, resistance, pressure, or interaction. There exists a potential for conflict. There is nothing without movement, and there is nothing without change. So, if you think about it, even on a daily basis, we could have the smallest little conflict. For instance, Jeffrey and Lorraine, you may decide you wanted to go to a movie tonight, and Jeffrey may have said, no, I want to stay home and watch the baseball game. Well, depending upon how your energy is, you could have it be a big conflict, or it could just be a little minor. Okay, well, we'll go to the baseball game, or we make choices. So we have little conflicts all our life, but some of the major conflicts are when we lose our job, when we get divorced, when we have somebody that dies that we dearly love in our family. Those are things that happen, and they happen to all of us. The journey through some of these conflicts has a lot to do with how much of the inward journey of strengthening yourself and knowing that you are not separate from a power greater than you are that can be there to support you. The next one. Conflict is conflict because we don't know how to relate to a perceived threat in a way that enables us to feel safe and okay. So very often when something happens, as you know, my husband Guy died 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years, June 4th. It's hard for me to even imagine it. I started my practitioner training right around that same time, and I feel like that was the greatest gift I could have ever received, because while I had certainly moments of great weeping and sadness and loneliness, it made me feel grounded and centered within myself, and it made me want to journey right through all the practitioner training. Even in the second year when there were some real challenges to wanting to stay grounded in the practice. So next. Conflict does not come to us, it comes from us. It is how we use it, it is how we respond to it, it is what we act out in the way that conflict has happened. If somebody has lost their job, certainly they're going to be grief-stricken. Certainly they're going to be upset. But how they actually work through it in life has a lot to do with the inner strength that they develop within themselves. When you have strength within yourself, you somehow have the message for yourself that it's all going to work out okay. Next one. Resistance, challenge, and conflict are necessary elements in our lives because these conditions stretch us and cause us to discover new dimensions within others and ourselves. That is really a pretty wonderful thing to think about. And rather than seeing anything that has happened to you as being this misery and how miserable I can feel about it, and why did this happen to me, it's also a chance to say, this is a lesson for me to grow, to become a fuller, richer person in some way. And so that conflict doesn't have to be seen as something awful. Let's go to the next slide. In Gary Simmons' book, The Eye of the Storm, he talks about four winds of conflict. Separation. Think about, and it says, an effect of being born into an imperfect caregiving environment. How many people can honestly say they had a relationship in their home that was really perfect, that made them feel totally strong? We've had to learn a lot of that on our own because so did our parents. Everybody has been born, and in a sense, one of Louise Hay's statements has been, we're all victims of victims. And I remember the time I went into a meditation and was willing to forgive my parents, and I cried and cried and cried, and at the end of that cry, I felt such an intense feeling of joy because I realized that I had made that process and that I was now on a path to really understanding myself on a deeper level. And I didn't have to worry about what anybody did to me or how they did it to me, but it was how I was doing it and making it work for myself. So, when I was thinking about this idea of separation, what happens when we're born? We are thrust out into the world, and the first thing that happens is the baby is taken away from the mother that has protected it and is put in a separate room, in a crib, or maybe now in the hospitals they're smart enough to have the cribs, the bassinets right beside their parents. But each little step of our childhood, we are learning how to be more and more separate. And being separate in some sense is a good thing, but if we learn about the empowerment within inside ourselves, the journey towards separation and growing and being secure on your own can be quite a different journey. Misperception. We see things not as they are, but as we are. I had an experience a few weeks ago at the beauty parlor where I was talking to my person that was doing my hair, and my hairstylist, and she had a picture of her little baby on the wall on her mirror, and the baby, gorgeous baby, big blue eyes, round rosy cheeks, curly blonde hair, and I was looking at it and I was saying, my God, what a beautiful baby, that baby looks just like you. And she said, well, not really, she looks like my sister. And I said to her, and this was not any intention other than something really positive, but she was still kind of chunky from when she had the baby, and I said, she looks just like a bubble. And I think she thought I was saying she looked like she was heavy. I was thinking, this baby is really effervescent and looks like she could be a burst of joy. And my hairdresser stopped talking. It's like the next half hour sitting in that chair, she didn't want to talk to me, and I couldn't figure out what it is. And I was trying to think, did she have a problem? Did something happen at home? But I left there thinking for the next 2 weeks about what I might have said that might have hurt her feelings. And I thought, maybe because I said her daughter looked like a bubble, she was saying her baby looked fat. I certainly wasn't, but that maybe was her perception. And competition. When we need to compete with others outside of ourselves, that is a sure sign that there's some part of us that is not feeling great about ourselves. We need to feel like we're proving that we can do it as well as the next guy, or maybe we're even better than the next guy. The more we are sure of ourselves, the less competitiveness we feel. And then, certainly, who hasn't felt defensive at times when you've dealt with people? So these 4 winds of conflict are the things that we will all experience in our lives, but how we handle them, makes all the difference to your life. And this inward journey that takes place where you feel connected to something greater than you are, that I call God now but didn't for a long time, has made me feel safe. I never feel like there's a part of me that isn't going to be safe. I always feel like if I go in and start asking myself some of the questions about how I responded, I will usually find that I responded because I felt fearful, or I felt angry, or I felt guilty, or I felt something that was not making me feel positive. So I think these are the last slides that I have about the 4 winds of conflict. What I'd like to say is the cause and effect of our lives gets to be very important at these times when we are dealing with this sense of separation, when we're dealing with any of these 4 winds, and you know that if you have control of your thoughts and you can see whatever is happening as maybe a lesson to learn, an opportunity to maybe be forgiving of somebody or yourself, or an opportunity to say, I am growing, and it's an opportunity to feel more depth within myself. These are not things to be feared. These are not things to be disappointed about. I know that being in this journey has led to little minor miracles all through my years of being in this philosophy. Would anybody like to share anything that would be not too time consuming, but anything that they feel is powerful enough to talk about? No? That's okay. Well, I'm going to tell you one that I think is really kind of powerful, and this is the one that led to my marrying my husband, Guy. I was with him for almost 22 years, and when I met Guy, it was because I had been in a relationship for 8 years, and my brother and sister-in-law know very well what happened. We actually were engaged. I thought we would get married, and we were going to the center in Boston together and had very like minds and really had a lot of wonderful conversation, and he would agree. We had a wonderful relationship, but it may not have been that kind of love that he would like to have had. He loved me in the way he did, but he didn't love me intensely. During the time I was together with him, he lost his job. He was out of work for a year. When he finally regained his job, he was asked to go to Phoenix, Arizona for a conference. It was a week conference. And he said to me, oh, I'm going to Phoenix, and I am going to take Patty, his ex-wife, out to dinner. I said, sure. I'd met her over the years at different family functions. I had no sense that maybe there was even the slightest inkling of any kind of emotion between them. He came back after that week and he said, I can't even explain what happened, but he said, maybe it's because I've been able to relate to you so well that I was relating to Patty in a way that was just very different. And he said, all these rush of feelings came back to me, and I think I want to go back to her. I was sitting in a restaurant. We were in an Italian restaurant, because I will never forget it. I had pasta on my fork, and I had my fork up for about 10 minutes while he was telling me this because I couldn't move. He left a month later. I cried tears. I lost weight, which was not a bad thing, but I cried tears. And after a month, I met my husband because I had it in my intention that my life was going to unfold easily and effortlessly, that I was worth being loved, and that I was willing to have somebody to love again. And we were married a year later. So some things happen in the very best ways, because being married to my husband Guy, who was wonderful in many ways and challenging in many ways, like who doesn't have somebody in your life that's a little challenging, it was a good relationship. And when I think of him now, I think of him with the greatest love, and it's so very, very exciting. So anyway, unless you have some questions, I am finished with my talk today.
And you will now lead us in the spiritual mind treatment.
Oh, and yes, I will. And you know, I think I'd like to take this in a little different direction today for the benefit of Jeffrey and Lorraine. So, recognition, unification, realization, which is the knowing of what you want, being grateful for it right here now, thankfulness, and releasing it to the universe. So are you ready to receive? So in the recognition of the one source, the one presence, this joyful, positive, powerful presence that exists everywhere. There is no space where that presence is not. Everyone has that presence within them, inside themselves. That presence is all-knowing. That presence is a giver of life, and that presence is willing to give each and every one of us that which we ask for. I know that I am one with that power. I know that all that I desire and all that I ask for comes to me easily and effortlessly, and I know that for each and every person that is here today, I know each one of us have that power within us because we are, in essence, God individualized. Just as a drop of water is to the ocean, we are, in our own unique individualized worlds, powerful, godlike substance. And so I know that as I use my mind and my thinking properly, and I know that as each of us does that, we have that which we desire. I know that a wonderful, beautiful life of ease and effortlessness, balance and harmony, abundance, prosperity, good health, loving relationships. These are all part of a life that is full and rich, and that each and every person is absolutely able to have that in every single solitary moment of their positive, powerful thinking. And knowing this, I know that all is well with everybody. I give thanks, gratitude for this power that is so great and so willing to give us the kingdom. That is the truth of this power and this philosophy. And I release this to the law of mind, that law which gives us that which we put out in our thinking, our feeling, our emotions. All of it is felt and sensed by the vibrational energy surrounding us. And with that, I would like to release this to the law of mind and have you say with me, and so it is.